And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. From Eric, we have one of 5 because I know you've asked for every one of the Teen Titans. So let's just start with Robin. What is Robin's Pokemon team? Now, there are 4, technically 5 different Robins. Wait, how many? 1 second. 5, because there's Dick Grayson, who we'll be looking at today, Jason Todd, Tim Drake. There is also Damian Wayne. And if you want to get technical, there is also the Robin from whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, from The Dark Knight Returns, who is the girl Robin. So there's 5 different Robins, but the main Robin we all think of is Dick Grayson. So there you go. So what do we do with a drunken sailor? But what do we do with this team? Well, the thing about it is, like, for anyone who's got an animal-themed name to their hero, I do think a Pokemon that represents that animal. Like, I don't think I've actually done Batman's Pokemon team yet. Have I? No, I have. I have done Batman's Pokemon team. And I did put a Bat Pokemon on there. So, so there was a Bat Pokemon on there. Catwoman, whenever I do her, there'll be cats on that team. Definitely. Killer Croc, we'll have some crocodile Pokemon on that team. If I go into another one, Sabretooth, probably will have something. We don't actually have a straight Sabretooth Pokemon, but something to do with the Sabretooth. Mammoth might have a Mammoth, sort of, but either way, yeah. Characters that have an animal, like, persona or an animal to their name, Robin the Boy Wonder, and a Robin, should have, like, at least one Pokemon on the team that kind of represents that. Now, the problem with that, though, is that in Pokemon, there actually isn't a Robin-based Pokemon. Pidgey is based more off of, like, pigeons, and then leading more into birds of prey with the evolutionary line. Sparrow and Pharaoh are more, again, kind of sparrows to whatever degree, though Pharaoh's design is a little bit more harder to kind of pin down, but certainly not a Robin. Hoodoo and Noctowl are obviously owls. The Swallow and Tailo line are basically based off the swallows. The Starly line, I know it's based off a certain type of bird, and then later on it's more like a bird of prey into a raptor. Pidove line is obviously pigeons. Toucan is obviously a combination of woodpeckers and toucans. The Corviknight line is more ravens than anything else, and Rookidee is like based off a chickadee, and then obviously Kilowattrel is kestrel. But you'll notice I skipped one. That's because Fletchling is more or less the closest thing we have to a Robin on this team. Now, you might be saying, well, especially when you look at more of the team later on, well, why isn't it fully evolved into a Talonflame? Why not? Because I think it's important to keep at least one thing, to keep something as it's supposed to be represented. Because otherwise, Talonflame is no longer a Robin, so there's no point in Robin. Well, you might be saying, well, he turns into Nightwing later on. He does, and I'll reference that, but it's not with Fletchling. So that's your Robin Pokemon. But that's not the only Pokemon on the team, obviously. I knew that fighting types are going to have to play a big part on the team, because that's mostly what Batman, Robin, a lot of these street-level fighters do, is that they're fighters. They're payday and combatants. They're martial artists. But I also wanted something that would have been, say, probably his partner Pokemon while he was in the circus. A Pokemon that, would have been helped him with the Flying Graysons with their acrobatic acts. So I imagine his starting Pokemon would have actually been the starter Pokemon, Chimchar, and leads ultimately into Infernape. Because Robin, as we go along further, is just going to evolve as a person. Obviously, he grows into Nightwing later on. So I do think it's important to see the evolution of things where he started, how he started, and where he ultimately ended up. Infernape also is just a master martial arts Pokemon, one of the best Pokemon in Sinnoh, bar none. Like, if I don't choose Turtwig whenever I play Diamond and Pearl, I choose Infernape, hands down, straight up. I've never chosen Empoleon ever. I don't hate Empoleon from a typing perspective or even a battle perspective. I just do not like Empoleon's design whatsoever. I have never liked it. There's only like a handful of Pokemon who I've never straight up used in a playthrough. Empoleon is one of them, and War's the other, and it's all down to aesthetics. I also, in Incineroar, do not like Incineroar. Inteleon, nope. And yeah, be honest, Meowscarada. Do not like Meowscarada's design. Because, again, why do we have to keep going humanoid on so many of these things? You didn't do it with Skeledirge, but you felt you had to do it with freaking the four-legged cat. There were so many other cool ways you could have gone that route. I mean, I get ultimately why they went that route, but regardless. Anywho, yeah. So, Fernape represents his time in the circus, the acrobatic nature of him, the fact he can learn acrobatics was a big thing. And so there you go. And then later on, he would add Lucario. Now, Lucario just kind of is a Pokemon you can slot into any team that involves a lot of fighting. It's a very easy Pokemon, involves lots of bonds, which Robin does have. It's also a Steel type, which I think does unintentionally, but does lean itself into the fact that, Batman, Nightwing, all these guys, they do wear body armor. They're armored individuals. So I do think you can use that as well. You can also add the idea of the Steel type acting as him using some of his gadgets, which, speaking of which, if we're going to be adding a Pokemon for gadgets, one of the things that Dick Grayson has in his arsenal is electric gloves, similar to Batman, electric gauntlets. He can charge them up to do a lot of serious hits. There's only one, technically there's two, but it wasn't going to be Iron Hands, one line of electric fighting types right now. Zeraora should have been one, but we've already talked about that. And I literally just had Palmont last week on Sakura's team, but we're going to go with Palmo. Why? I think it still works for the idea that Dick is not infallible. Dick is still learning, even as Nightwing. And the idea and the way you evolve Palmo is just to have it follow you for 1,000 steps in the overworld and then level it up. So yeah, it's definitely a Mon that I think Dick wouldn't really be thinking about in terms of keeping it behind him, because it's not his partner Mon. So I don't think he thinks about evolving this very often. Then we get into the last two. Now, one of the other things he's known for is his Screamer sticks. Basically, fighting sticks. And there's only one Mon in Pokemon that actually has those. And it's Thwackey. Yeah, the two twigs in his head, they're fighting sticks. I mean, they're two twigs that are more designed for drumming. But if you're talking about something that fights with the Screamer sticks, that's Screamer sticks. So, Thwackey, I had to go Thwackey on that. Now, finally, though, as I mentioned, I did want something, because I'm not going to be doing a Nightwing. At least not a Dick Grayson video part 2 with Nightwing, because I think this is kind of a combination of both of those. And yeah, we need something that describes his evolution into Nightwing. And luckily, we have the Steel Flying type Corviknight. Now, it's not a Dark type. It is not Nocturnal, as far as I know, although it might be Nocturnal. But it is a very dark, steely, night-based Pokemon. Or night-based crow Pokemon. It is, dark bird of prey in many ways. And it's also I've never actually used one. I've never used one on a playthrough. And I really should give that a shot at some point. Ultimately, that is the team for Dick Grayson. So begs the question, as always, how balanced is the team, and how well would this team do in a playthrough? In terms of balance, this team is weak to quite a bit. 2 times a week to electricity with the 2 flying types, 2 times a week to ice types with the flying and the grass type, though Corviknight is okay. 3 times a week to psychic with the 3 fighting types. And then you have 3 times a week to ground with the electric and the fire and the steel type. 2 times a week to fire with the grass and the steel type. And 3 times a week to flying with the grass and the 2 non-steel fighting types. But what it lacks in defense, it makes up for way in its physical, not physical, but its offense. It's got 3 times strength against bugs with both the flying types and the fire type. It's got a 3 times strength against grass. Again, fire and flying. 2 times strength against fighting with the 2 flying types. It's got a 3 times strength against dark with the 3 fighting types. 5 times strength against rock with only the Fletchinger not able to do much. It's got a 3 times strength against steel with, again, the fire, the fighting, and the fire type. It's got a 4 times strength against ice with the fighting and the fire type as well. And the steel type with Corviknight. It's got a times 3 strength against normal types with the 3 fighting. It's got a times 2 strength against, what was that last one there? Ooh, I did not write that well, that last one. Oh, times 2 strength against fairy with the 2 steel types, and a times 2 strength against water with the grass and electric type. Now, with all that being said, how balanced is this team? Now, I'm going to get two of these out of the way right. No, three of these out of the way right now, because Fletchender is technically the one in the lead. You just straight out aren't going to be able to beat Kanto, Hoenn, or Sinnoh because they both start out with rock types. Oops, I made a boo boo. I forgot that. I'll deal with that on the way. But yeah, so just Kanto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, because you start with Fletchinger, you can't just get past the rock gyms. It's just not possible. Now, Johto, however, you should be able to, I mean, it'd be difficult, but you could beat Faulkner. This means then you're leading into Bugsy with a Monferno, which means you're going to take him down easily. You'll then have Lucario by the third gym, which is normal. Honestly, you'll have no trouble then clearing the rest of the league until you get to Claire. Because Claire has 2 Dragonair, a Kingdra, and a Gyarados. The Gyarados should be no problem for Palmo just because of the electric typing. But unfortunately, Dragonair resists fire, grass, and electric. So you don't have a lot of strong options here. You're just going to have to muscle through. Luckily, Steel does resist Dragon, so it's not like you're going to be one and done, but you will struggle against her. You're also going to struggle against Will, who's a Psychic type trainer, with 2 Xatu or Flying types on the team. So you're not in a good way against Will, because you don't have anything that's really strong against most of his team. You can beat the Executor, no problem, and even the Slowbro shouldn't really be that much of a problem. And the Jinx, because the Psychic typing is going to be resisting the fighting type moves you have, but the Steel type moves you should hopefully have will kind of cover that. It will be difficult, but not impossible. Koga, you can handle things like the Fortress, no problem. The Steel will prevent any poisoning you can get. Flying will prevent any Earthquake shenanigans, but not a good time against Koga either. Bruno, though, should be no problem, and Karen should be no problem. The problem is Lance. You can handle the Charizard, the Gyarados, and the Aerodactyl. Theoretically, with Palmo, although Palmo is only a middle stage, you're not going to be able to. So you're unfortunately underleveled and, well, not underleveled, but you're understatted. So you might not one-shot Charizard or Aerodactyl, and they're probably going to rip through that. If that's the case, yeah, even if you got through all of them, you still got to deal with 3 Dragonites that are going to resist electric. So Palmo, even if it does take all 3 of them down, not a good spot there. And Thwacky's just not going to be able to do much. Neither is Fletchling. The problem is that half this team is under-evolved Pokemon. If they were fully evolved, you could stand a better shot, particularly with Palmot. But it still isn't easy, to say the least. Particularly because it's also not exceptionally fast Pokemon either, Palmo. So it's almost certainly a no. But beyond the no, maybe a very thin maybe. Then we'd actually skip all the way to Unova. So with Unova, you would actually be able to get through, I think, the first gyms without much difficulty. The 3 brothers, Cillian, Cress, and Chili, you might be able to handle. Fletchender, just quick attack and, peck, all that stuff if you need to. Same with Sharon in Black and White 2. You should, by all accounts, be able to handle it. And then with Monferno on the team, you should be able to handle both. With the fire types, you should be able to handle Roxy without any real difficulty. And you can definitely handle Lenora with a Mach Punch. So that should be no real issue. And then you get into Berg. Should be no problem. Elisa should be no problem. You won't hit a snag until you hit the Drayden and Iris. But by then you should be okay to handle a Dragon type gym leader, just because of 2 Steel types with resistances. Marlin would pose a bit of a problem, but you have Thwacky and Palma, even if they're underleveled. And again, 2 fully evolved Steel fighting, Steel flying types. Ferdave's just not going to be useful on that team. But then you get to the Elite Four, and honestly, the only gym leader of the Elite Four member who's going to be giving you any trouble there is, I can't remember her name, but the Psychic type gym leader, because she can take out 2 of your heaviest hitters. And if she does take that out, you are not getting past her. You like that what you have left for your team, if she takes that Infernape and Lucario, is just not enough to handle even if it's only 4 Mon, an Elite 4 level team. If you can get past her, and it's not impossible, but if you can get past her, you can definitely beat Alder, because Alder is more of a bug specialist, but even so, with a fire fighting type on the team, the only thing on his team that isn't going to be straight out negged by your team, by your Infernape, is Volcarona, because it's already fire type, and it's a bug type, and Druddigon. That's it. You can take out the Acelgor. Acelgor's faster, so it might get a hit off, but that's it. You can take out the Acelgor, the Escavalier, the Buffalont, and the Vanillix. No problem. So that really just leaves you with Druddigon, who will just resist the fire, and the Volcarona, who would, let me put it this way, if the Volcarona takes out the Infernape, so I'll refrain from what I said. It's not a guaranteed win against Alder. It's more of a, yeah, you could. It's more of a maybe, though, because if the Infernape is taken down, that Volcarona is going to run ham on your team. Ham on your team. So, and honestly, it's very possible that could happen, because you're not going to switch out into anything on this team otherwise against Infernape. It gets a Quiver Dance off, you're in trouble. Now, granted, it also doesn't have a lot of moves that would be good against Infernape, so it's really just a question of who's taking down who. It does, in fact, have a better stat line than Infernape. It's got, I believe, a base 150 as opposed to Infernape's base 550 versus the Infernape's like base 510 or whatever, 530 I think stars went up to. So it is actually a little stronger than Infernape. So I will say and plus that's assuming that Druddigon maybe didn't come in and just, weaken the Infernape or even succeed in taking it down, because I believe that Druddigon, if I remember correctly, getting Alder's team up here real quick, I believe that Druddigon has Drain Punch on it. Because if I remember correctly, if that Druddigon has Drain Punch, you're in trouble. Because you two are just going to be duking it out for a while in terms of damage taken and damage received. And you might, and plus he also has Dragon type moves on as well. Come on, black and white. Give me the black. It's all just black and white to me. Come on, seriously, bring up. Cerebee's just being. Sight can't be reached for whatever reason. I don't know why. Cerebee, for some reason, normally Cerebee's not a problem, but every once in a while it is very off in terms of how it's function. Okay, where are we now? Where are let's see here, Black and White Forest, Legendary. Where is the gym leaders and a champion battle? Okay, Elite Four. Let's see, I believe the Elite Four is not going to actually cover initially Alder. Okay, Alder does. Okay, so again, Acelgor has me first, Energy Ball, Bug Buzz. So yeah, I want a Focus Blast on there. That's not good. But you should be able to take it down. But okay, the Druddigon has Rough Skin. So first off, any physical contact moves you make, not good. Has Superpower. Oof. Night Slash and Payback won't be that big of a deal. And then, yeah, the Volcarona has Quiver Dance, Bug Buzz, Overheat, and Hyper Beam. So, that's, and Volcarona, again, just to get the stat line of Volcarona real quick here. Volcarona, which one of my favorite bug type, which is one of my favorite Pokemon, Volcarona, yeah, has a base stat total of 550, if I remember. Come on, give me the total base stat total here. Go away, ads. Base stat total of, let's see, that's 105, that's 205, that's 340, that's 405, that's, and then 405, and then, yeah, it has a base stat total of 550, whereas Infernape, and that goes into a lot of its special attack, special defense, and its speed. Now, Infernape, for what it's worth here, Infernape has a base stat total, if I remember correctly, of like 530-ish. So let's see here. What is the base stat total of Infernape, real quick here? So base stat total, and we're just going to get this because I don't want to do the math here. Okay, so Infernape is naturally faster than the Volcarona. It's 534 is a Fernate space stat total. It is naturally faster than the Volcarona. It has almost as bad defenses though, which is not good. And its special defense is nothing. It's 71, but against a like 135 special attack hyper beam, add on a quiver dance. Oh no. Oh no. Its attack is 104 against Volcarona's like 65 defense, which is good, except the fact that Volcarona is a bug fire type, and so it's going to resist any fighting type move that thing has. So it's really not that good. And Quiver Dance is a broken move to begin with, due to the fact that it not just increases a special attack, but Quiver Dance also increases special defense and speed. So yeah, it gets one Quiver Dance off, you're screwed. You're screwed. Now, again, I've been going off on this for a while now, but here we go. That being said, Iris is also not going to be a cakewalk. Hydreigon may be a dark type, but it's still a pseudo, so you are going to have to deal with that. Fortunately, though, Infernape's not a bad option to go against a lot of her team because she also has an Aggron and a Lapras, which right at the gate are going to just be weak to the Infernape. But she also has the Haxorus, which if it gets one Dragon Dance off and you don't put it down, oh no. She also has the Archeops, which is a rock flying type, which means it's going to resist fighting type moves. And she still has a Druddigon of her own. So, yeah, I'd say it's not impossible. I just don't know if it's very likely. Both of these guys are a maybe. Galar, I forgot to actually record, so we'll actually skip Galar for Kalos. Kalos actually forgot to write down and put in the wrong spot. So first off, we're going to talk about Galar. Right out the gate, no, you cannot. You can go through all the gyms. Shouldn't be all that difficult, but you run into a wall with Gunsig Leon. And then once again, it comes down to that goddamn Dragapult. Because it's a ghost type, your fighting type moves mean nothing against it. And because it's a dragon type, it resists Infernate's fire. And Steel will do some damage, but, not enough. And that thing has Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, and Dragon Breath. So, yeah, you're not going to... And then you still got to get through the other 4 Pokemon on his team. So, yeah, probably not beating Leon. In Paldea, the first gym you'd really struggle with would be Tulip, just due to the fact she's a Psychic type gym leader. Is it impossible? No. Would it be difficult? Yeah, it'd be a little difficult, because the half of your team that isn't weak to Psychic, only one of them's fully evolved, and it's a Corviknight. You should be able to handle Grusha, no problem, though. Rika's going to be a problem, because Ground is actually got a ×2 strength against this team, whereas you only got one Mon who's actually strong against Ground. And yeah, then you got to deal with Poppy, which you actually should be able to handle no problem. But then you got to deal with Larry and then Hansel. But Larry. No, this team's not good against flying really at all. It's got resistances to flying, but Palmo's the only thing that's actually got a strength against it. And he's got a mix of things on the team, from electric flying to grass flying to dragon flying to fighting flying. So yeah, not looking good for you. And then Hassel's all dragons, so you're not in a good way there either. Kalos is the one I forgot to write down, so let's go bit by bit on this. You start with Fletchinder. You can handle Viola's bug types with Fletchinder alone. You should be fine. You should have Peck by the time you need a fighter. And I always say you can go like 2 levels above, because if you over level anything, of course you'll win. But yeah, Fletchinder should be able to handle Viola. Luckily will have Monferno with fighting type moves by the time you get to Grant, so that should be no problem. Once you get to Karina, you have both Lucario and more leveled up Monferno, and a fairly high leveled Fletchling, which might be a low base stat total Pokemon, but still a flying type. So you should be fine there. Ramos won't be a problem. You'll either have Infernape or be close to Infernape. Clemont should be no real issue as well. Valorant could give you a little bit of problems, but you have a fire type which resists fairy, even though you are fighting as well. You got 2 steel types. You should be okay. Then you got to deal with Luminia, who, at least I believe that's her name, the Psyche type gym leader, who, yeah, that one's going to be a bit problematic, again, just for the same reasons as always. You're not good against psychic types, and you also don't have a good answer on this team to psychic. That's the other problem. It's not just that you're weak to psychic. You also don't have an answer to psychic on this team. Like, you don't have bug moves really at all. You don't have ghost moves, and maybe a couple of these might have some dark moves, but it's not a lot. So, yeah, not good. That's not to say you couldn't win. It just wouldn't be easy. But then Wolferin, yeah, you should be able to handle Wolferin without too much difficulty, if we're being honest. You got 3 fighting types and a fire type, should be fine. The Elite Four, the Dragon type, Dryantha, would be probably the most difficult. The fire type is, which I believe is, Flava? She's actually problematic, too, because you got half your team's weak to fire. So she's actually going to be a little problematic, to say the least. Like I said, Dryantha is going to be problematic because fire resists pretty much everything you got here. I can't remember the water type Elite Four member's name, but he will be annoyance, but nothing you can't handle. And Winkstrom, you should actually be able to handle no problem with the fire. It's those other, so half the Elite Four is relatively easy. The other half's not going to be easy. So it's debatable whether or not you might be able to get to Diantha or not. If you can get to Diantha, the question is, can you beat her? Hawlucha outspeeds everything on this team, so that's not a good starting point. Especially if you start with Fletch and you have to go out and it gets a sword stance off. Now you're in trouble because that thing can flying press your Palmont and your Infernape and just take them out. So you're probably going to go into Corviknight for Hawlucha. That's not a guarantee, by the way, of a win. That's just what you need to go into. Then we know the Tyrantrum's going to come out. Yes, you have an advantage with Steel, but it's still going to hit like a tank, assuming that thing isn't dead. But you should be able to handle both that and the Aurorus with your fighting types, no problem. Then the Goodra comes out, and the Goodra's just a tank. You're just going to have to whittle it down. And unfortunately, it's probably going to take a couple of your guys with it. Your lower level guys like Fletchner, Palmo, and Thwacky might be gone. Corviknight might be gone at this point too. So I think you can still get past the Goodra, but you are going to be down to your Lucario and your Infernape. Gourgeist, you can take down that, no problem. And that leaves the Mega Gardevoir, which Fairy type moves won't really work on Infernape, hooray. But because it's a Fairy Psychic type, it's, in fact, let me double check that Gardevoir's moveset, because if it has Psychic or a strong Psychic type move, I'm replaying Y right now. I haven't played it in a while. I'm just felt with ZA coming out, I'm like, need to refresh myself. But let me see here. So Diantha, what actually is her Gardevoir's moveset? Because if it's as powerful as, so yeah, it is Psychic. It Mega Evolves, you're done. Like, you're done, because even though Fairy isn't weak to fire, but fire resists Fairy. The fact of the matter is that with Psychic and not to mention it has Thunderbolt, Moonblast, and Shadow Ball, dear God, it actually has a really nasty moveset. Like, I mean, it's a very offensive moveset, true, but it's still not a good moveset. It's got Stab on 2 of its more powerful techniques, and it's still got coverage for Water type and Psychic type as well, and Ghost type. And it's got Pixelate. I forgot it's got Pixelate. Ooh. When it Mega Evolves. Ooh, man. So, and then now that I'm looking at the moves here, yeah, like the Hawlucha's got X-Scissor, Flying Press, Poison Jab. Oh God, the Tyrantrum's got Earthquake. I forgot about that. You better take that Tyrantrum down when the first hit. I mean, the Corviknight isn't going to be able to be hit, but it's still got Dragon Claw and Crunch, and it's still got Strong Jaw, which means it might take the Corviknight down. So you might actually have to switch out the Corviknight. But then you run the risk of just getting swept by an Earthquake. Aurorus, frankly, is going to be the easiest one to take down. Ice Rock is not a good typing defensively. But because fire is going to hurt it regardless, but fighting is also just going to rip through it. and you have enough fighting type mon on the team to rip through it. It's got a good moveset though. Thunder, Blizzard, Reflect, and Light Screens. If it's setting up screens, problem. Gourgeist will go down to any sort of grass type move, but then, like I said, Goodra got Muddy Water, Fire Blast, Dragon Pulse, and Focus Blast, and that thing is beefy. Goodra is beefy. Yeah, I actually just don't think you're going to be able to beat Diantha with this team, because half your team's going to be gone by the time you even get to the Goodra, and you'll be lucky if Corvette's still sticking around. And even then, if it is, Mega Gardevoir is going to be sweeping this team straight up. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to beat Diantha. That all said, that's my thoughts. What do you think? This is the team I created for Robin, Dick Grayson. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will certainly do the other Robins at some point. Let me know in the comments below which one you'd like to probably see come up later on. I've got plenty of other suggestions before that. Anyway, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.